Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, Randall Hawks. How is life treating you? We're glad you are back. And look who's in the house. I always mess this up. Mr. Godfrey is in the house. What's happening, Mr. Godfrey?
Hey, good morning. How are you?
Wonderful. How many cups of coffee are you on now?
This is only my second,
Oh,
but this will probably be like my second of my six of the day, I'm sure.
You do about 6?
I think so, yeah. More at home than at work, obviously.
Oh, yeah. Like you get that many restroom breaks.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I got a little secret, Randall Hawks. For some reason, this is take 2 because I messed up the videotaping. So that's why we're a little reminiscing here. It's crazy. It's crazy. Today is, what is today? Today is Tuesday, May 19th. And remember, this is the last week of the morning show. You won't see this beautiful, no makeup, didn't even do my hair today, face. I know you'll miss me. Yeah. And all of our wonderful guest hosts. So excited to have you here, Mr. Godfrey.
Guest host. I've never been called a guest host before. I like it.
Yes. So, like on Ellen, she has this guy who like throws down the beats. So you're gonna throw down a beat for us?
Throw down a beat.
No.
I would use in my mouth, my hands. What do I use?
I don't know. I make up this crap as I go.
I'm probably not the best beat throw downer.
Oh no. You know what? I did earlier in our taping. I missed Miss O'Connor's birthday was yesterday. So Miss O'Connor, happy birthday. We missed it on yesterday's announcement, so I apologize. My dog is chewing my glasses. This high production studio I have here.
High production.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know what? If it looks pretty much like any other show I've seen, like Jimmy Fallon does his show like out of his house lately. So you're right on point with all the big time hosts.
That's true, and he's got his daughters to mess up everything. I've got the dogs, so I'll take the dogs.
Sure.
So I like to celebrate my days, and May is barbecue month. So I know we used our grill a lot more lately. We're not the pros that like Mr. Rooney, man. He gets on his green egg and he cooks everything.
Sure.
I mean, we're just not cooks though.
Yeah. I do some barbecuing. Raymond James, Al Lopez Park for Buccaneers games. That's probably the most common time in which I'll be barbecuing is before Bucs games when I'm tailgating.
Nice. Do you have season tickets?
I do, which usually I would always respond and say, unfortunately. But now this is kind of an exciting time. Maybe this will be a good time to be a season ticket holder.
We should be called the Buckapats.
Oh, don't do that too. Tampa Bay.
Well, here's a little secret that a lot of people don't know about me is my mom has had season tickets since I was in 4th grade.
Wow.
So I was raised where really in 4th grade you didn't need season tickets. You paid $10.
Sure.
And you got into the stadium and you watched the game, and we would buy the $10 seats, and then we would walk down to the 50-yard line. So all through not most of elementary, but some of elementary, middle school, and high school, every Sunday.
Really?
Yep.
I did
and when
not
I was
know
pregnant
that.
with Haley is when we won the Super Bowl.
Okay.
So, look at my high production. Yeah, that's my live audience. They're super excited.
There you go. You got the applause.
Sadie Ann, come. So it's interesting. And my mom's like, you should come to the game with me. And I think I'm burnt out from all those hours.
It's a different feeling when you're a season ticket holder. You do lose a little luster and excitement. So it's odd. It's like I want to be there every game, but at the same time, it's not quite as a big a deal as it was when I was young.
Right. Well, it should be exciting. This year definitely should be exciting. I'm looking forward to it. So today in history, for my 6th and 7th graders that don't know Miss Godfrey, he teaches 8th grade social studies, history. It's U.S. or American, or does it matter?
Early U.S.
Early U.S. history. And I like my days in history, and I got one right up his road. In 1643 was the first federation of the 4 American colonies. Today in history.
I love that. Like you said, this is our second time going through this, but to me, they're like essentially what goes off of my mind is that's like the beginning of the Union. If you're telling me that's the first time the first 4 original colonies kind of loosely decided to talk about some things and get together on the same page, that's the beginning of America.
Absolutely. That's kind of goosebumpy if you think about it.
Yes.
You know?
Very goosebumpy.
In 1977, Richard Nixon, who is a past president of ours, he's got some interesting history, so look it up, my peeps. He was being interviewed for a not press conference, but a TV show. And the question was about the legality of his actions as president. And his quote was, well, when the president does it, that means that it's not illegal. So I found that because I haven't taken civics, and those of you who are in civics, you know a lot more than I do. So I'm going to let Mr. Godfrey, if you would reiterate what you stated earlier.
So one of the interesting things about the Constitution and our principles of government is we have the concept of rule of law, which should indicate that no one is above the law. But one of the interesting things about the Constitution is it explicitly lists many powers that are very clear, but don't necessarily give the path to how the president should implement those. So, for example, maintaining national security. It's the president's responsibility to enforce the policies necessary to maintain national security, and it doesn't lay out the game plan. So let's say the president does something that may or may not violate a law, but is, under the guise of implementing or maintaining national security. You could argue that the president has the implied powers from the necessary and proper clause to do something that's not necessarily listed in the Constitution. So therefore, it is debatable and up to interpretation exactly how much power the president has and whether or not the president can violate the law to fulfill their responsibilities.
So it's definitely not a black and white issue.
It's not a black and white issue. I think most people would tend to say that the president cannot break the law. However, it is highly debated.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And it makes me wonder, like, if you look through the years with impeachment hearings and all that, I wonder a lot of that, like, we as normal, well, you're different because you're knowledgeable in this stuff.
I'm very normal. If anything, I'm less than normal.
Well, no. But in this field, you know what you're talking about. So when I watch the news, I don't necessarily realize the scope and the power the president could have. Mm-hmm. Because I think, oh, he's just a dude and he should be following the rules. But sure. Hey, you people who've taken civics, you know more than me already.
They should. So, well, to give you an example, we have a federal system of government. So you could have a state law that completely doesn't necessarily contradict, but is not necessarily aligned with the U.S. Constitution. And the president could do something, that theoretically aligns with the Constitution, but doesn't, jive with what that state law, says. And, most people would say, well, the president, in the U.S. Constitution, supreme law of the land. But there are people that advocate for states' rights and say that the state should be able to have more autonomy. So it's just, it's an interesting system of government that we have.
That is interesting. So in the end, who has the ultimate power, the U.S. Constitution?
So almost always the U.S. Constitution, will lay out the supreme law of the land. And usually the Supreme Court tends to support federal policy. If everything, they say tie goes to the runner, right? Well, I would say tie goes to the federal government. That's usually how I've observed Supreme Court case precedent.
Very interesting.
I know our kids are loving this talk, by the way.
See, but it's interesting. I didn't know this stuff. Well, you kids who aren't enjoying this talk, I got a good one for you. In 1981, there was a chick. Her name was Deborah Ann Fountain. Ever heard of her? Never. She was Miss New York State, and she was running for Miss America. She was the first one disqualified because she padded her bathing suit bra. You're beautiful in every single way. You don't need to pad your bra. So disqualified for that. These are the things in history we should know about along with the Constitution.
Sure.
Yeah. So just on a lighter note, are you ready? Are you ready for rapid fire, Mr. Godfrey?
Rapid fire. Let's fire away.
All right. Here we go. My book. Something most people don't know about you.
Well, it's odd. I'm gonna try and do rapid fire differently. So earlier I said that I cry a lot, but I feel like that's not organic because I already said that now. So something else that people don't know a lot
You know what, Mr.
about me.
Godfrey?
Yes.
I'm
Go
going
ahead.
to change pages and if you want to be organic.
Sure. Yeah, because I
All
feel
right.
like if I say everything I said earlier, it's not gonna be. It's not gonna be.
Yeah. You're right, but I didn't want to put you through it again.
It's okay.
Okay, ready. Something you're proud of.
Something. I just love my mom. She makes me proud.
Oh. Chopsticks, fun or annoying?
I hate them. I can't stand them. I've been to Japan twice and I don't use them. Still can't to this day.
Fictional place you'd love to visit.
Fictional place I'd love to visit. Oh my goodness. I mean, I guess immediately I just go to like Westeros, Game of Thrones.
Oh.
That's a very dangerous place though. I don't know why I'd want to go there.
Would you kiss a frog if you knew it would turn into a beautiful princess?
Oh, it's just absolutely. It's a no-brainer.
What's your typical Sunday morning?
It depends on what time of the year. Because if it's the fall and it's a 1 o'clock Bucks game, I'm up by 8 o'clock, load the truck, and I'm on my way to Al Lopez Park. Barbecue, hang out with friends and family, go to the Bucks game, sulk a little bit with my friends walking back from Raymond James Stadium, and do a low drive, listen to AM Talk Radio, and then maybe watch some cartoons before I go to bed and get the Sunday anxieties because I get those for some weird reason.
All right. Scared of heights? Yes or no? Or it depends how high?
I'll always do whatever I need to do, with the exception of like jumping out of a plane to get to point A or point B, or to do like a thing that's like worth doing. But I don't particularly like being up high.
Got it. Scared of spiders?
No, no. But also, once they get to be like the size of your hand, I'm not going to be volunteering to like take care of the situation.
No. Word you always misspell?
Just so many. Like necessary for some reason is one that comes to mind.
Confusing. 2 C's, 2 S's. Like, where do you go?
Yeah, any word that I have to talk to myself about the spelling, even though I usually know the rules, I tend to just mess up.
There you go. Long road trip or short flight to destinations?
I love them both. I like both, so I can't pick one.
Ever entered a competition?
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah.
Tell us a little bit about it.
Well, the last thing I did, and it's different once you start becoming an adult. The kids, you live in that world where it's like there's constant competition, whether it's like recreational or just like through your friends or through the classroom. As you start to grow, you have less opportunity to compete. But most recently, I competed in a physique competition. That was pretty challenging, to be honest, because it's something I had really high expectations, but I did it with limited preparation. I wanted to see what it was like. And it was bittersweet. It was good to like do it and say I went through something, but I want to be the best of anything I do. And I didn't meet my expectations as far as like placing. And so it was a bittersweet experience. I tend to always try to compete though. So like recently I was also in like an adult soccer league, adult kickball leagues. I always coached usually. I even coached with Mr. Rivera my first year at Randall, the soccer team. So.
Very cool. So would you compete again?
Yeah, I always do it, and I accept losing too. So it's
Absolutely. What would be a fun business to start for you?
A fun business to start for me. I like to entertain. So some kind of like entertainment production company. So
I
but
could
things
see
are
you
so
doing
different now.
personal trainer.
Yeah, that could be. I don't know. I want to make like television shows and stuff like that. I'm too old and I don't have any know-how now, and things are so different. Like, YouTube's a thing, and I don't even watch stuff on YouTube. So I don't really know if I have my like finger on the pulse of the market.
Well, you may not know, but like Hugh Jackman or Ryan Reynolds might be watching the show right now.
Okay.
And they might be like, oh my gosh, look at that. Look at him. I want him on the next movie. So this might be your discovery.
We'll see.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Do you chew gum?
Yeah.
And who is your favorite superhero?
So I always grew up like a Batman guy. always because of the timing. When I was like 4 is when Michael Keaton's Batman came out, and my dad was like super into that and made me subsequently super into it. So I was just always very Batman loyal. Now that I've grown and like really found my own identity, I don't really relate to Batman too much as far as our upbringings. I still love him. I still maintain my allegiance to him being my number one. But I'd probably say I like Thor the most. But I relate to Aquaman's background the most.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Well, you survived rapid fire. A
Woo!
second rapid fire for the day. So
Yes.
you can have 7 cups of coffee now.
All right. Well worth it then.
Mr. Godfrey, you want to do a shout out to your kids or the kids in general?
Yeah, I just want to say again, I teach 8th grade. That's like the senior year of middle school. I did not get my chance to say goodbye to you guys the way I would have liked to. I loved all of you so much. Being at Randall's special because the kids are just so special in general, but I had such an amazing group of students this year. Every class in their own way was my favorite. I just really wish I could have said goodbye, told you guys I love you. For those of you that are going to be at Newsome moving forward, don't ever hesitate to come say hello to me. If you ever need anything, advice, you ever need any like volunteer opportunities, I'm sure I could think of different things that I could use your services for. So just don't hesitate to reach out.
All right, Mr. Godfrey, thanks so much for joining us for a second time today.
Thank you, Miss Harder.
Appreciate you. To the rest of you, peace out. We will see you tomorrow.
Bye.